ToK presentation. My name is Hassan Ahmed. These are my colleagues, Hagan and Fitting. Excellent. So a couple of years ago, my school was planning a ski trip to Switzerland. I was very excited to go and travel with my colleagues. I had never seen snow before. I had got all the equipment and I was ready to go. So then I applied for my visa on my Lebanese passport, but I was denied. I was very upset. You can see me contemplating my life. I was devastated. I started to ask myself and wonder why they denied me. Is it because of my nationality? Is it because of my religion? Or is it simply because of the way I look? Maybe I reminded them of some of the world's most feared terrorists. I was reminded of this incident that took place in my life when I came across this article that I'm sure you're all aware of. The suicide bombings that took place in Lebanon not so long ago. In Dahi, the suicide bombers. So these bombings took place in the name of God and in the name of religion. This made me realize that events like this lead people to think that our religion is violent when it's not. From these two events, we formed our knowledge question, where we ask, why is religion taken as a pretext for violence? Does anyone know what pretext means? No? Okay. So in this case, pretext basically means an excuse. So what we're asking is why violent acts are carried out in the name of God as an excuse. The answer to this question in very simple terms is because religion is emotional. It uses the way of knowing of emotion, and then reason can easily be lost when emotion overtakes your reasoning. Obviously, these violent actions are unreasonable and have nothing to do with religion, so they are purely acts of emotion. The two ways of knowing we'll be exploring, obviously, are emotion and reason. We can define reason as a cause, an explanation, or a justification. It's basically the power of the mind and the way we think. What's practical, what's right, what's a logical judgment. Reason is something we use whenever we make a decision. Most of the time, our reasoning occurs instinctively. We don't have to think about it. We decide on what the best path to take is, depending on previous experiences with similar situations to these. It's possible to train ourselves to reason consciously, though. And the more one thinks about the decision one is making, the more power he has to have active control over them. Some questions we need to consider is how we reason and its relationship with emotion. Also, the problems and fallacies that can arise when reason isn't used correctly. On the other hand, emotion is described as a strong feeling, like joy or anger. It's an instinctive feeling. Obviously distinguished from reasoning. The first, because reason is instinctive, and the second is something which we are constantly involved in. Next. This man is named Antonio Damasio. He's a professor of neuroscience in the University of Southern California. Damasio's research in neuroscience has showed us that emotions play a central role in social cognition and decision-making. His theory implies that we are often faced with rational decisions that involve many conflicting and confusing alternatives. And we usually decide which course to take by weighing out the options and deciding which one's most beneficial towards us. But when it is unclear which path to take, reason is insufficient in formulating the answer. This is where our emotions take over. I can give you a very simple example right now of emotion and reason. I can stand here and say, Bakr is an idiot. And then, obviously, Bakr allowed his emotions to take over his reason, and he hit me in front of all these people when we were in our ToK presentation. Whereas if he was to reason, he wouldn't have done so, and would have left it for another time. The area of knowledge we'll be using is history. We picked this because there's many examples throughout history that are going to help us answer our question. But worthy of note is the definition of history is the study of past events and not the past events themselves.
The first example we'll be taking into consideration is ISIS. ISIS roots go back to a Jordanian named al-Musab Zarqawi. After the United States led the invasion to Iraq, Zarqawi assured partnership with Osama bin Laden. Then he formed Al-Qaeda in Iraq that became a major force in the revolution. After Zarqawi's death in 2006, Al-Qaeda formed an organization named ISIS. ISIS stands for Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. Next slide. ISIS burst onto an international scene in 2014 when it detained large areas of territory in Syria and Iraq. It has become notorious for its violence, including mass killing, abductions, and beheadings. All of us now know about ISIS through social media and the videos they publish. Many people support ISIS nowadays, and many people are against ISIS. Okay, first I'll be taking two acts of violence that ISIS committed. The first act is on Friday, November the 13th, 2015, when shootings and bombing in Paris took place, where more than 129 lives were killed. The other example is the slaughtering of 13 teenage boys. These teenage boys were slaughtered because they were watching a soccer game on TV. ISIS claimed that what they did in Paris is to kill everyone who was against religion, against Islam, and against God. Next slide. However, in the Quran it is stated, whoever kills a person unjustly, it is as though he has killed all mankind. And whoever saves a life, it is as though he had saved all mankind. So they just contradicted themselves. In this context, they're using religion as a pretext for violence. Okay, so why are the ISIS bombers, why are they doing that? ISIS are feeding people religious lies and making unrealistic promises that they will get rewards from God after they carry out certain acts of violence. The victims' emotions are overtaking their reasoning and their logical judgment. Every chapter in the Quran starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The name of God, most gracious, most compassionate. What does this mean? This means that whatever you do in life, whatever crime, if you ask for forgiveness, God will accept that forgiveness. However, anyone for ISIS that is doing a crime, they directly kill him or take his life or her life. Next slide. Okay. ISIS say that their goal is to eradicate obstacles, to restore God's rule on earth, and to defend Muslims, communities, or Ummah against infidels and obstacles. What do they mean? They mean that they are here to kill anyone who is against religion and against Islam. However, in Yemen, ISIS have attacked a mosque and killed more than 100 Shia Muslims, and more than 345 were injured. So what did ISIS do in this situation? They contradicted themselves by saying they're here to kill people who are against Islam. However, they killed 100 Muslims and injured 345. But why are the suicide bombers, why are they following them? Why are they helping ISIS? The suicide bombers' fear from ISIS and love for God is making their emotion convince them that killing these Muslims is the correct thing to do. This is a video about an American citizen who joined ISIS, and here he's reading his Bible.
You think you're safe where you are in America or Britain or Indonesia or Jordan or China or Russia or Somalia or Africa or Egypt. May Allah open Egypt. Egypt, inshallah, is opening up with Jihad and Mujahideen. All these places, every single kufr, everywhere. Canada, everywhere, France, Paris, you could name it all the kufr and Taghut. You think you are safe? You are not safe. I have one word to say to you, kafir. We are coming for you, alhamdulillah. And I am glad to say this. Finally, I get behind camera to say this, you kuffar, you kafir. You big dajjal. We are coming for you. Mark my words. Listen to my words, you big kuffar. You think, that you killed Osama bin Laden. You did nothing. You sent him to Jannah, alhamdulillah. You sent him to paradise.
These are such promises that they give ISIS that if you kill that many people, you're going to heaven. However, this guy is calling everyone kuffar and all the people in all the countries. However, this means that all the people are bad people and only ISIS is their right way to go, the right path. ISIS are abusing religion and brainwashing these people and using them to perform violent actions. So ISIS are doing that, they say that they're doing that to spread Islam all over the world. However, the only reason ISIS is doing this is to gain political and economical power. Next slide. When I was searching about my topic, I went over this article about a 10-year-old child who was writing a paper and he wanted to write about terrorist house, but he misspelled terrorist and he wrote terrorist. This young child got interrogated by the police because he wrote that. So the world's fear of ISIS is making them judge innocent Muslims such as this child. This child was put into a situation similar to Hussein's situation, where his identity was questioned, his intentions were portrayed in a negative and harmful manner. It has also been mentioned that this innocent boy is now afraid to write, and this is a small verification of how he will start fearing many of his future activities, and he is now delicate enough to be brainwashed by groups such as ISIS into believing that he will be never considered to be a pure human again. And they will use this to convince him that what they are doing is the right thing to do. From all these examples that I showed you, it can be seen that ISIS is using the name of God as a pretext for the violent actions, because the use of religion makes it easy to change people's reasonable thinking into their emotional thinking.
The second example we're going to be looking at is the Crusades. Now, many of us have heard such expressions such as the crusade for women's rights, the crusade against littering, the crusade against adult illiteracy. Well, this is because the word crusade has been so overused in a rhetorical and metaphorical sense, because it has become an element of righteousness, a connotation for the fight in the name of God being justifiable for any action of violence. Now, looking back at history, actually, the Crusades were a series of political and religious wars that were carried out for the control of the Holy Land, Jerusalem. It was powerful popes and wealthy leaders that actually led these armies into Jerusalem, and they led armies of Christian religious people through massacres against different religions such as Islam and Judaism. A common mistake we often do as human beings is judge people's religions and blame it for the actions they do without taking into consideration the different factors affecting their actions, such as their emotions. When an emotion is triggered in a human being's body, in their brain, our nervous system tends to respond by creating a feeling in the body and certain thoughts in the mind that tend to outweigh our sense of logical judgment. Now, many of us are aware that Catholic Christians look up to a pope, and their pope holds the final words on matters such as faith and morals. Having considered that, and then imagine the Pope Urban II, which was actually the initiator and the leader of the First Crusade, and he told his followers this. Next slide, please. Whoever for devotion alone, but not to gain honor or money, goes to Jerusalem to liberate the Church of God, can substitute this journey for all penance. In other words, he's giving a promise on behalf of God that anyone who goes through the crusade is going to be forgiven for all their sins that they have committed. Other than this spiritual reward, they were also promised earthly rewards such as goods from the conquest, freedom from taxes, forgiveness from all debts, and for those who wished it, economical power and political power. If we look at the difference between what the Crusaders believed and their actions, they contradict themselves. Crusaders were Christians and they believed in the Bible. So by going out on mass murders, we can say that they were contradicting what they read in their own Bible. We will find the emotional buildup, which was initiated by the proposal of their highly desired wish to forget all their sins, to be forgiven for them, made the Crusaders convince themselves that crusading was an act of peace. Their own pope called this crusade Dios le volt, meaning God wills it. Then we can say that the Crusaders were brainwashed, and religion has been used as a pretext by the people driven by political and economical power. However, for the Crusades, they led themselves to believe that they were pilgrims. They were performing acts of righteousness. This was just a reconquest of Jerusalem. It was not colonization in their minds. If we consider the next quote, this is a quote that was actually abstracted from the Bible. And it says, "Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone strikes on one cheek, turn to him the other also. If someone takes your cloak, do not stop him from taking your tunic. Give everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you." Now emphasis. If someone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. This is a great contradiction between all the actions. And if the Christians, if they followed their reason, if they followed what they read every day in their Bible, then they would know that they wouldn't have followed, but they were brainwashed. They were simply brainwashed. We can see this, it's like a domino effect. When religion was used as a pretext, when their emotions were altered with, they were led to believe that anything they do will be good. And that's why on their way to reconquer Jerusalem, the leaders actually stopped by many different locations and took over these locations. And those weren't holy. Those were just villages with people that they wished to conquer. And this actually, this portrays what people were actually looking for, which is to gain land and to gain power. This is a real-life situation that I found when I was going through the internet to find information about the Crusades. And we can see that the first comment is actually made by someone who's Christian, and the second one is by someone who's Muslim. The first one reads, "The Crusades were good because they were a necessary response to the centuries of evil, murderers, thieving, raping, Islamic aggression. Those who say otherwise are liars, fools, and evil themselves." I mean, this is a great generalization. I don't know about you guys, but it really, really is. And then someone else says, "How dumb are you connecting the Crusades to make Islam look bad?" Well, if emotion now was triggered and altered with, then what do you think the people that actually lived in the moment, how were they feeling? The Muslims actually back then, they destroyed all Christian artifacts. They destroyed their objects and images. And just like Bakr has previously quoted from the Quran promotes peace upon us. And it doesn't tell us, oh, we'll destroy what people's belongings. So in a situation like this, we would have been urged for forgiveness. But emotion again took over. So emotion tends to take over many different, like anyone who believes, who has a religion, who follows something certain, will get caught up in their emotion, which will outweigh their reason.
Now, as we can see from the past two examples given by Bakr and Sabine, there were people or groups that promote violence. So basically, religion is being used as a pretext for violence. However, throughout history, there's been countless examples and events of people that are spreading peace instead of violence. And they use religion not as a pretext, but they use their reason, meaning that these people use the true essence and the true teachings of religion, so obviously no violence was involved. A perfect example of such a person is Mahatma Gandhi, also known as Mohandas Gandhi. He led India's independence movement in the 1930s and 1940s by speaking softly without carrying much of a big stick, facing down the British colonialists and stirring speeches and non-violent protests. Gandhi was a Hindu. And after I did my research about Hinduism, I found out that they don't have one specific book like Christianity has the Bible and Islam has the Quran, but they have many religious texts. I'm probably going to pronounce them wrong, but they include the Vedas, Upanishads, the Puranas, and the epics. These texts include the core teachings of Hinduism. These teachings are about accomplishing inner peace, and from that they aim to achieve world peace through individuals and organizations. And this is what Gandhi was aiming for. This is what all religions aim for, achieving world peace. Some important quotations said by Gandhi. The first one reads, "It is my firm opinion that Europe does not represent the spirit of God or Christianity, but the spirit of Satan. And Satan's successes are the greatest when he appears with the name of God on his lips." This quotation is basically what our entire presentation is about. He's saying Satan's successes, these are the violent actions, but appearing with the name of God on his lips. So using the name of God and the name of religion as an excuse for these violent actions. The second one reads, "I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ." What does this mean? Christ is the God in Christianity. So basically the teachings come from him in the Bible, and it's the spread of peace. However, the Christians don't follow this, because they're using violence instead of peace. The last one, "Yes, I am a Hindu. I am also a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist, and a Jew." It means we are all united as one. All religions come together because they all have one goal, and that is to achieve peace. I remember also another quote that he said. He said his goal isn't to make other religions convert to Hinduism. His goal is to make a Hindu a better Hindu, a Muslim a better Muslim, and a Christian a better Christian. Basically, we should all be promoting peace. He means that we should not force any change upon people, but instead we should unite and promote peace, because that is the aim of all religions, and no act of violence can be justified using the name of any religion or the name of God.
Now, in conclusion.
We can conclude that people use religion as a pretext for violence because religion has the ability to ignite a person's emotions and take over their sense of reason. Those who seek economical and political power have realized this, and they realize that it's an easier way to promote their ideas by brainwashing vulnerable religious people.
So it is essential that we realize that religion does not promote violence, but the exact opposite. Therefore, we can say that these abusers of religion are only using the name of God as a pretext for their violent actions, and this cannot be justified. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, just coming back to the ISIS point, just wanted to ask you, like, how do you think media plays a role in this? Like, for example, me, I just moved here to Lebanon, but I lived in Jerusalem, a Palestinian, most of my life, and I've seen both sides, but how the media portrays both sides is completely different. So with this whole ISIS situation, I just wanted to ask you, like, how do you think that media is making it worse than it is, or is it giving it the right image, and how are we seeing it, you know?
Okay, sometimes media makes it worse because as people watch the media, some people start to support ISIS, and the media wants you to come to them. It doesn't, like, each media portrays a different perspective of ISIS. Some media want people to join ISIS, some media want the exact opposite. Okay.
One question for you. There's mass media, there's media like CNN and BBC, and then there's things like Instagram and small things. What do you think the main aim is for the mass media, for big companies? What's their main aim?
To get your money?
Yeah, exactly. So if ISIS sends them these things and they want money, so they will portray anything that anyone wants them to show. So when ISIS has they have an idea in their head where they want everyone to support them and follow them, they will be ready to pay money for that. And that's why we can't always use the media to answer questions like these. Like, we need to open your eyes and see what's right in front of you.
So it's not reliable,
No.
as we think it is. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Okay, how do you know it's emotion that triggers all these responses?
Well, we just make the way of knowing of emotion through religion. Because, like, for me personally, like, when someone enters the house of God or something, it triggers emotion into you. It can make you upset, it can make you happy, and different things. And we can see that because of religion, it's really important to people. And when someone abuses someone else's religion, they can get very annoyed and they resort to acting in a violent way instead of reasoning. I hope that answers your question.
In most religious books, it's written that you should be peaceful towards other religions and should not enforce your own religion on it. And especially in the Quran, it says, "Lakum dinakum waliya din." It's basically saying that you have your own religion and I have my own. So why do you think these different extremist groups are seeing as these kuffar and they're attacking them and all these and they're killing them? Although in the Quran it says the complete opposite.
Yeah, but that's what we're saying.
They're using it as an excuse. They're using the name of God and the name of religion as an excuse for what they want to do.
Anything else?
You took Gandhi as like the main example for non-violence, but at the same time, do you think that portraying this image to the society was a direct cause to the domestic violence we all know of him beating his wife?
Gandhi was just like an example we took of someone who was promoting peace, because like from these quotations you can see that he was trying to promote peace and show us that all religions should unite into one. Obviously it can be controversial because, as you're saying, he did something else that was violent, but that's not what we were exploring.
Thank you.
Excuse me, in your opinion, how do you think you have to face these extremists?
The one spreading peace or violence?
Using Mahatma Gandhi's way of anti-violence, or
Obviously,
from all what you did, the research you did,
Yeah, okay.
what's the best way to get rid of them?
What's the best way to get rid of them? Now, it's not only Europeans that are trying to get rid of them, because it's also like people, Islamic people, they also want to get rid of them because they're portraying a bad image of us. Not only that, it's just that they're using the name of God, which we don't believe, I don't believe that they're, for example, Islam, like ISIS. I don't believe they represent Islam. So it's not only the Europeans that want to get rid of this, it's also us. But if we can get rid of them easily in like a simple way, then we would do that. But resorting to a solution of no Muslims in America or something like that, I don't think that's the
such as the
solution.
example I gave of what did in trial in America. This isn't the way. If you see any Muslim on the street or any Arab, you're not supposed to judge him directly that he's a terrorist or something like that. This isn't the way to solve the problem. We should all unite together.
If we have to use some violence to get rid of them, I mean like the military part, I'm not talking about the
but
Muslim
each person's
We
opinion
might
is
use
different.
violence as self-defense. this is the way that we might use violence.
You can't.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, we're not, we're like, who am I to say, well, what's permitted and what's not permitted? Obviously, everyone has their own opinion, exactly. And if we did have the solution to it, then we would end it. But
Yeah.
And do you think that the unity of all religions is possible? And like, if they ever unite, then will it create more conflict or actually solve
it
it?
doesn't actually have to be like the union of all religions, but as long as you respect my religion and I respect yours, like that's what their aim is trying to say. As long as, because all religions have the same goal, and that's to promote world peace and peace within yourself and with others.
Last one.
Yeah.
Come back to being reliable. You know, you said media wasn't as reliable, but can you question reliability in religion? Like, for example, Gandhi, that you brought up. You know, like for one example, he said you can't consume any dairy products, but once his relative was ill, he allowed it. So he contradicted himself and he let it be. But so people in religion, you know, and their beliefs, can it really help them to an extent? Like, is it as reliable as we think it
There's
is?
always the contradiction. For example, in Islam, abortion. If there's in a certain situation that the mother is going to die because she wants to get the child, for example, she can go through abortion. But there are some exceptions. It depends on the situation. So in all religions, you contradict yourself.
Interpretation changes throughout.
The reliability of religion lies like within each person's faith. Like if you have faith and you believe in this, that's what you believe in, and that's what you think is reliable.